start. So struts 2. So struts 2 is a framework. So struts 2 is actually called as a web framework. It is based on MVC, design pattern. So first of all, what do we mean by web framework here? So what does it mean? So a web framework means especially, so this is used to develop web applications, I can say. This is used to develop web applications. Yeah. Struts 2 framework, we can only use this framework to develop web applications. At most, that is what we can do with this framework. Yes. When I say framework means it represents uh, it provides basic infrastructure which is needed for web application development. It provides basic infrastructure which is needed for web application development. Framework not only provides basic infrastructure which is needed for web application development, but framework also provides a lot of reusable components which we can make use of in the application development. Provides a lot of reusable components which we can make use of in the application development, I can say. Okay, yes. Framework, it provides the basic infrastructure for the web application development, as well as it provides the components, reusable components, which we can make use of in the application development. So that means if we use a framework, we don't need to develop everything from the scratch. Okay, so if we use a framework, we don't need to develop everything from the scratch. Yeah. So that is the advantage of using the framework. Now, it is actually based on MVC design pattern. It is based on MVC design pattern. So MVC design pattern, you'll find that it helps us to develop the web applications which are more organized. Okay, generally when we talk about this MVC design pattern, this is what we'll do. So we'll divide the application into three different components. In the application, we'll have three different components: controllers, view components, and model components. So MVC, it stands for model, view, and controller. Yes. Model, view, and controller. Yes. Okay. So when we talk about the model components, a model component can be any Java object in which you got business logic, data access code, or which holds data. Okay. Yes. Model object is any Java object which holds data or encapsulates business logic or data access code. Okay. Any Java object, if it holds data, or in that object, if you got business logic or data access code, you can call it as a model component. Okay. Yeah. Please make a note of it. Next, when we talk about a view component, a view component is responsible for dealing with presentation logic. Yes, it deals with presentation logic. So next, we got controller. Controller is responsible for handling request processing flow. Controllers are responsible for handling request processing flow. So examples of model component, a DO, data access object, in which you have that data access code, or a Java Bean, or a Pojo, plain old Java object class. So these are all examples of model components. Now, example of a view component. Generally, which components will be handling presentations? We got a specialized component to deal with presentation logic, right? JSPs. Okay, JSP is responsible for handling the presentation logic. When we talk about controllers, example is a servlet, which takes that inbound request and it will read that request information, will process the request with the help of other components, and will delegate the task of rendering the response to the JSP. Okay, this way we have components which are divided into three different types, and that is demonstrated here. You see, just check this once. Okay, you see, when a client places a request, the first component which will intercept this request is the controller. So the controller here, you see, it will intercept that request. It will read that request information, and with the help of model components, you may have that business logic or data access codes in some other object, right? So with the help of model components, it will process the request, even the DB interactions, or if there are any. Now after that, you see, the servlet, once it is done processing the request, once that request is processed here, the JSP, the servlet will forward the request to the JSP. Servlet will forward the request to the JSP. Okay. Yes. So now you'll find that here your servlet, your struts is based on this architecture. Okay, internally it uses it. Yes. Yeah. Now we'll go through struts framework. So if you want to handle a client's request using struts too, now let's see what are all the components which are involved in processing the client's request. Yes. So in struts provides us reusable components. Okay. So which we can make use of in the application development here. Yes. So the first component which you got here, you know, just ignore that value stack. Ignore that value stack. Okay. Yes. So if you use struts framework to process a client's request, so the first component which will intercept the request here is filter dispatcher. The first component which intercepts the request is filter dispatcher. So what is this filter dispatcher? Filter dispatcher is a predefined component provided by struts2 framework. Filter dispatcher is a predefined component provided by struts2 framework. Okay, so the filter dispatcher, after intercepting the request, you see it will forward the request to the interceptors. It will forward the request to the interceptors. So what are these interceptors? So interceptors are also predefined components provided by struts2 framework. interceptors are also predefined components provided by Struts2 framework. You know, you'll find that interceptors will be doing the pre-request and post-request processing task. Interceptors will be handling pre-request and post-request processing task. So what do we mean by pre-request and post-request processing here? What does it mean? So what do people think? Interceptors will be handling pre-request and post-request processing task, I can say. Yes. Okay. Yes. What is pre-request processing task here? Can you people tell me? Pre-request processing task. So pre-request processing means before a request is processed, executing any task, before the request is processed, executing some task. So will there be any such task which we have to execute before the request is processed? I can say yes, we will have such pre-request processing tasks. What are they? Yes. So before the request is processed, generally you'll be reading the request information. You'll be reading the request information. Am I right? So, and what else you'll do? We'll do one more thing before the request is processed. You may need to validate the data. You will need to validate the data. That is another pre-request processing task. Validate the data. So reading that request information, that means if you got any form data, okay, so if you got the request from a form, then reading that form data and all, so we have to first do that, right? Yes, which is a pre-request processing, and then sometimes you need to validate that form data. Yes, that is another pre-request processing task. You see, for the most common pre-request processing tasks, you will find that the framework itself provides interceptors. Framework itself provides interceptors. You got predefined interceptors, and we'll see that. Okay, don't worry. So next, after that interceptors, they execute the pre-request processing task. After the interceptors, they execute the pre-request processing task. You will find that the request is forwarded to the action component. The request is forwarded to the action component. Yes. So what is an action component? Action component is also is actually similar to your servlet, I can say. Generally, why do we use a servlet? To handle a client's request. Generally, in the servlets, we'll be writing the request processing code, right? In the servlet, we'll be writing the request processing code. Similarly, here in struts, we got something called as action component, and in this action component, we'll be writing the request processing code. So the way you see, we can create a servlet by extending a predefined class. We can create a servlet by extending predefined servlet class, right? Yes. Similarly, we can also create an action component by extending one of the struts classes. Okay, we'll see that. But the action component will be mainly responsible for processing the client's request here. Okay, the action component will be mainly responsible for processing the client's request. Yes. You see, once the action component here uh, is assigned the task, it will process the request. And in order to process the request, the action component, it may take the help of a model component. The action component, it may take the help of the model component. Okay. Model component, is it a predefined component? That means, is it provided by Struts framework? What do people think? Is it a predefined component of Struts 2 framework? I can say no. See, it can be any Java object in which you got the business logic or data access code, or we have the business logic, data access code, or the data. Any Java object which holds data or which encapsulates business logic or data access code is called as model component. Yes. Okay, fine. So now you see, the action component will be taking the help of model component to process a client's request. And once it is done processing the client's request, the model component will return a result. The model component, what it does, it returns a result here. Basically that result will be referring to a view component, I can say. That result is nothing but a string which will be referring to a view component. Yes. Okay. Yes. So you see, again, after that result is written, so the response should be rendered back to the client. Now who will take care of rendering the response back to the client here? It will be the responsibility of a view component handling that presentation logic, or rendering the response generally is taken care by the view component. You people know that. Yes. So but before that view component renders the response, you see what happens here. Again the interceptor will be called. Again the interceptor will be invoked. So the interceptors this time will do post request processing task. You can say interceptor this time will handle post request processing task. That means after the request is processed, if there is any such code to execute, then that code will be executed. So we'll see the examples for post request processing also. Don't worry. As of now, just remember this point. Interceptors will be handling both pre-request and post-request processing tasks. And after that interceptors finished execution, you'll find that the response will be rendered back to the client by the view component here. The response will be rendered back to the client by the view component. Yes. So that is how it works. So these are all the components which are involved. Okay. Just have a look at it. Now we'll try to develop an example. Okay. uh, Using these components. We'll develop an example using these components here. Yes. So let's try to do that. What is this values type? Don't worry. So I'll talk about it later on. Now, first of all, if you want to work with struts framework, so we need to download the struts libraries. You know, struts is not officially part of your Java. Java people didn't provide struts framework. Then who provided this framework? So struts framework was actually provided by Apache Software Foundation, ASF. Okay, struts 2 is developed by ASF, Apache Software Foundation. So now you will not find this components, whatever this components which we are talking about in struts framework. By default, you won't find them in standard Java, okay, or enterprise Java. So we need to definitely download them. That libraries we have to download them. So from where you're going to download the struts libraries? So from the official site itself, you can download them. So I'll show you here. Let's struts 2. libraries. So now this is the official site. Okay, so this is the official site from where you can download this struts2 libraries. Here the current release is 2.3.24.1. You can take it, not a problem. And you see we got full distribution here. That is the one which you need to download. Okay, download that full distribution. So basically you'll get a zip file. You'll get a zip file. Okay, so once you're done downloading that zip file, you see you'll find this zip file. You'll get that zip file actually. Okay, you're going to get that zip file. So you need to extract that zip file. Okay, you have to extract that zip file. Once you extract that zip file, you see here, sorry, you'll find different folders in the extracted folder. So this is what you'll see. In this lib folder, you'll have all the required jars, I can say. Yes. Okay. So these are all the libraries or jars, I can say. Now we don't need all these jars, so only we'll use handful of these jars to work with struts. Okay, fine. Once you got this struts2 libraries, so we are all set to develop a web application using struts2 framework. Let's try to do that. Okay, so let me start this Eclipse IDE. Okay. Now struts, using struts we can only develop web application. Let's try to do that. So first of all of you please make a note of this. So creating a web project using struts framework. Okay, yes. So first create a dynamic web project. Create a dynamic web project here. So the same web project which we used to create earlier. So I'll call it as struts2 proj. Okay. Next, so we can just leave this target Apache and the dynamic web module version, let it be 3, and click on next. Don't click on finish. Again, click on next. Add this web.xml file. Okay, add this web.xml file. So here, after this, I'll click on finish. Okay. Now we just created a web project. That is what we did. Now the next thing is we'll add the libraries. Okay, let's add the required libraries here. Yes. So uh, an important note. So struts2 people, what they did is here to help the developers who are very new to struts framework. Struts2 people have provided some sample applications. Especially they have provided one blank application actually. Yes. Mommy? They have provided a blank application. So let's see that blank application. Yes. So where you will find that struts blank application. So that struts blank application, so it will be part of your zip file which you have extracted. In that extracted folder itself, you'll find a blank application. Okay. Yes. So you see in this extracted folder, you have this apps folder. If you can see this apps, under the apps, you'll find a struts blank application. It's a rar file, so it's a var file basically. Struts blank. So this application will help you people to develop to configure the struts framework properly. I can say to configure the struts framework properly, we can make use of it. Okay. Yes. All of you, please make a note of it. So in that extracted folder, in that zip folder, you'll find a struts blank application. You should see a struts blank application. So in that struts blank application, If you extract it, you'll get a var file. You have to extract it using WinRAR. Now, the first thing what you will do is here, you open this web.xml file. In the web.xml file, we'll have the details about how to configure the filter dispatcher. How to configure the filter dispatcher. Yes. So as I told you people here, you see, when a client places a request, so the first component which intercepts that client's request is filter dispatcher itself. The first component which intercepts the client's request is filter dispatcher. We need to configure that filter dispatcher in the web.xml file. Okay. So first step is creating the web project. The second step is configuring filter dispatcher. You can make a note of it. Configuring filter dispatcher. So how to configure the filter dispatcher? Yes, now we'll take the help of struts blank application here. Yes. So you see, in the struts blank application, you'll find a web.xml file. Open this web.xml file. So you'll find this filter configurations. Copy this. All that filter elements, whatever the filter elements which you got in that web.xml file, simply copy them. Okay, yes. Whatever the filter elements which you got, copy them. Okay, and then what to do? Open your struts project and paste it here. Copy that filter configuration from the struts blank application and paste it in web.xml file of your project here. Okay, yes. So filter, the name itself indicates that it will be filtering that requests, I can say. It will filter that or intercept that incoming requests. Okay, yes. This is one of the struts components. What is the name of that class here? You see, we got a class struts prepare and execute filter. The filter class name is struts prepare and execute filter. Yes. Yeah. So next, after configuring the filter dispatcher, we need to add struts libraries. You know, what are all the essential libraries you need to work with the struts project here? what are the essential libraries which you need to work with struts framework. You see, you'll find them here in this lib folder itself. So these are the same jars which you'll find in that lib folder which we saw earlier. Okay, now you can copy this jars. Okay, you can copy the struts libraries. These are all struts libraries for jar files, and you can paste it in this lib folder. What exactly will have in this libraries or jars? Can you people tell me? So what exactly will have in this libraries or the jars? Yes, what exactly you'll have in this jars or libraries which you have added here. In the jar files which we have added, so what you have is, why do we need to add that jar file? Come on. So in that libraries or jars, you'll have that struts predefined components which you're talking about. So far I said we'll have interceptors, action components, that filter dispatcher. Where are they? They're not part of your Java libraries. So who is providing them? Struts is providing them. So you will find that predefined components provided by struts in that jars itself. Okay, yes, you'll find them in the jar file itself. In the jars itself, you have that libraries. Yeah, fine. So next, after adding that libraries, yes, now you know what you have in that libraries, that predefined components of structs. Now the next thing what you need to do is configure, oh sorry, create a struts configuration file. Struts framework, it will have its own configuration file. Struts uses its own configuration file where we'll be configuring the struts components. The components related to that struts framework, we'll be configuring them in that struts configuration file. So this struts configuration file which I'm talking about, it's basically an XML file. The struts configuration file is an XML file. Yes. Okay. Yes. So Here, let's create that XML file where we need to add that XML file in the source folder. Please make a note of it. Adding struts configuration file. So what we are doing basically, we are adding a struts configuration file. So in the source folder, we'll add the struts configuration file. Yes. For that, you see, I'll right click on this src folder. You have new, go to others. We have to create an XML file. So we have an option to create an XML file here. Click on XML file. You have to name this file as struts.xml. That's it. The name of this XML file should be struts.xml. Where it is in the source folder. In the src folder, we have added it. Yes. Now, what's next? Here, we need to add a namespace here. We say namespace. We have to add that namespace. Let's see. So for that, go to the struts blank application. Go to the struts blank application. In the struts blank application, you'll find src folder. Open this folder. You'll find Java. Under the Java folder, you see, you'll find this XML file. You should see this XML file. Yes. Which XML file? Struts XML file. Yeah. So now you open this XML file, copy the doc type element here, copy struts constant till package, copy all this code from the first line till the package element. Okay, till the package element. Please make a note of it. From the first line till that package element, copy all that code from that XML file. Yes. So once you're done copying, now you go to the struts XML file which you have created in the project. Okay, so copy this code and you paste it here. You need to paste it here. Okay, yes. Now we can close this package element and struts element. That's it. So this is a struts configuration file. We'll see later on how to use this configuration file. Okay, yes. We'll see how to use this configuration file later on. So this is how you need to create the struts configuration file here. Yes. Okay, yeah. So far what we did, is it clear for you people? Have you made a note of all this stuff? Okay, good. So if you people do this, if you're done with this, I can say that you got struts framework configured in your application. Okay, so in this project now, in this project, I can say that definitely we have configured struts 2 framework. We are done. So what we did, first of all, we have created a web project. Next, we have configured filter dispatcher. To configure that filter dispatcher, we have copied that filter dispatcher configurations from the struts blank application. Okay, yes. So next, once you're done configuring that filter dispatcher here, you see what is the URL pattern here? Slash star. What does that mean? The URL pattern slash star, it indicates that this filter dispatcher will intercept all the incoming requests. The filter dispatcher here, it will intercept all the incoming or inbound requests. That is what it means. Next, after that, add the struts libraries to the lib folder. In this struts libraries, we have all that predefined components which we are talking about. Okay. Yes. And after that, yes, what else we are supposed to do? After copying that struts libraries, what else we need to do? So we need to create struts configuration file, right? We have to create a struts configuration file. Yes, that's it. Where in the source folder. So we are all set. Okay. Yep. Now let's make use of this struts framework here to handle a web client's request. So far we have used servlets, right? Now let's handle that request using the struts components. First of all, I'll create a page. Okay. For suppose I'll create a login page. So I'm creating a JSP file, login.jsp. Okay. So in this JSP page, in this JSP page, sorry, we need to add that form, login form. So to create this login form, I'm going to use struts tag library. You know, struts framework it provides a tag library. Yes. I'm sorry. So what is a tag library? Yes. What is a tag library? A tag library means it is nothing but you'll have set of tags in it. You'll have set of tags. So these tags, they look similar to your HTML tags, but they are not HTML tags. That means we cannot use them in HTML pages. We can only use them in the JSP page. Yes, we can only use them in the JSP page. Yes. So now let's import that tag library so that we can use it to create a form. What is the advantage of using this tag library? I'll tell you. So this is the URI. Okay, struts hyphen tags. So that statement in line number 5, the statement in line number 5, it imports the tag library, struts tag library. So for every tag library, you'll have a URI, which is a unique string which identifies the tag library. Okay, yes, it's a unique string which identifies the tag library. Now let's create a form using this struts tag library. First of all, let me add a header. Login page. What else you have? Sorry, use form type. You see, we're using that prefix s here is actually the prefix for that struts tag library. Is a prefix. Prefix means it's a kind of a reference to the tag library. And if you want to access the tag library, you have to use that prefix. You want to access the tag library, you have to use that prefix here. Yes. Okay. Yes. So now let's create a text field this way. So generally, if we use HTML tags to create a text field, we use input element or input tag. We use input element or input tag. Yes. Okay. When it comes to this start tag library, we got this tag called as text field to create a text field here. Okay. Yeah. Now we are specifying the label. That means what exactly you want to display before that text field. What should be the label before the text field? We already configured it. Yes. Okay. So similarly, we'll add one more text field, but this time we should add a password field. To create a password field, this is what you need to do. Use password tag. Okay. Yes. Use the password tag. Next, we need a submit button. So how to create a submit button? Let's see. Submit value equal to login. Yes. So we use that submit tag. Okay. Now we got a form. Now how do we handle this form request here in Struts framework? So what are we supposed to do? Yes, which component will handle the client's request? Can you people tell me? Just look at this flow and tell me which component will handle the client's request here. That's right, action component, exactly. You see here, that request should be processed by the action component. So action component is responsible for that. Yes. So let's create an action component to handle this form request. So far we used to create a servlet or something, right? So now to define an action class, this is what you need to do. Define a normal Java class. Define a normal Java class, and you can give any name to this action class. Just a normal Java class, nothing more than that. Okay. Yes. Now this is just a normal Java class. So how to make it an action class? So if you want to make this class an action class, then you have to make this class extends action support. Action extends action support. Okay. Yes. So action support is a predefined class. Where it is defined? Where it is defined? Who's providing this action support class? The framework. So framework is providing the action support class here. Okay. Yes. Framework does it. Framework provides action support class. Yeah. So now here, you know, so we'll have an execute method which we need to override. Execute method. Where is this execute method defined? Where it is originally defined? Yes. Can you people tell me? This is a very basic question. Involves you need only codes or knowledge to answer this question. Where is this execute method defined? In this class, you see, we are overriding that execute method. So where it is defined? So it is actually defined in the action support class. Where it is defined in the action support class. So you see this login action class, it inherits that execute method from the action support class. Now you can relate this method, execute method, to the service method or do methods of your servlets. In the servlet you got service method, right? So in the service method, generally what you'll do, will be writing the request processing code. In the service method, you'll be writing the request processing code. Yes. Yes. So similarly, in the execute method also, we'll be writing the request processing code. Now what is the request here? Login request. So if you want to handle that login request, we have to read that form data first of all, right? Yeah. So, you know, reading that form data is one of the pre-request processing tasks. Reading the form data is one of the pre-request processing task. And this pre-request processing tasks are basically taken care by the framework itself. So which component will be handling pre-request processing task? What did I say? Which component will be handling the pre-request processing task here? Just now we have discussed. Interceptors, that's right. So now you'll find that the interceptors will read that form data, and they will populate it into the action class fields. Now in the action class we can declare that fields. In the action class we need to declare the fields. Okay, yes. Username and password. Okay, in the action class I'm declaring that fields. So we'll add get SNSX. Okay, so this is what we'll do. So whenever that form is submitted, so we want the framework to populate that form data into this fields. So framework will take care of it. Yes, but we need to bind this action class to that form. We have to bind this action class to that form here. So for this, you see, I'm going to use this XML file. One more thing, sorry. Let's say if user is successfully validated. User is successfully validated. So if the user is successfully validated, I want to print a message or display a home page where we'll print a message that you are successfully logged in. Okay, now let's see how to do that. Yes, so we'll create another page for that, a welcome page. Let's see, I'll create another page, a welcome page. Let's see. Let's see. So in this page we will display that message that user is successfully logged in. Okay. Successfully logged in. Yeah. I want this page to be invoked, which displays this message. Now let's configure this action component which we have created in the starts.xml file. And actually we need to write some logic here in this execute method as well. Let me write that first. I won't do anything. I'll just you know print this text message onto the console when this method is executed, or when this method is invoked. We'll come to know, and we'll see whether that username and password is populated into that text fields or into that fields or not. Okay, yes. We will return success. So what is this success here? You see this method, what it is doing? It returns this string message success. So it can be anything, need not be success. So this is nothing but the result, I can say. And this result, we need to map it to the that JSP page. Okay, which renders a response back to the client. Yes. Okay. So now let's configure this action component in that struts.xml file. You see, under the package element, you have to do this. Now, the way we configure a URL for the servlet, similarly, for the action component also, we need to configure a URL. Okay, that URL you'll configure it using this name attribute. Okay, yes. Now let's configure the class name. So what is a class name? So the class name is com.action.login action. That's it. Now you see, the execute method of that login action returns a string. That result, we say, what is that result? Success. Whenever this method execute methods, so the method action class execute method returns success, I want that welcome page to be invoked. I want the welcome page to be invoked. Yes. What to do? So we have to configure that result here. Result name equal to success. So you see, sorry, this result will make sure that it refers to this welcome page here. That's it. We are done configuring the action component. So what is the URL configured for this action component? Yes. What is the URL configured for this action component? What is the URL configured for this action component? login process. Yes. So please make a note of it. Most of them will confuse here. So that name attribute of this action element, it is used to configure the URL for the action class. Okay. Now we have to assign that URL to this form action login process. So once the form is submitted, then the client will read this form data, and it will the client will read this form data, and what it does, it will send this action URL and that form data to the server. So on the server side, so the first component which intercepts that request is filter dispatcher. The first component which intercepts the request is filter dispatcher. So filter dispatcher, what it does, in turn, it will forward the request to the interceptors. So here one of the interceptors, what it does, it will read that form data, and it will populate it into that action class fields. And once that form data is populated into the action class fields, you'll find that the execute method of the action class will be invoked. The execute method of the action class will be invoked, which in turn will read that form data. If there is any request processing code, you will write it over there. And after that, what happens? It returns that result success. So it is mapped to a JSP. So the execute method, what it does, it returns success. So which is mapped to a JSP. You see? Yeah. So that JSP page will be invoked. Yeah. Let's see. I'll deploy this application. Okay, don't worry. It won't be an issue. You'll see this. I'll tell you later on what is the problem. But now let's try to access that login page, JSP page. So we'll get this login page here. Now let's type in some data and submit this form. Oops. Just a second. There is no action mapped for namespace action name login process associated to the context. Let me remove the slash. Okay. So let me access that login page. Yes, sorry, don't use slash while configuring that URL for that action class. Don't use slash. Okay, that is what you do. So now you see, when you submit the form, down in the console, that login actions execute method is called. The form data is also automatically populated into that fields in the action component. So we don't have to take care of this. So this way framework, you see, the most redundant stuff, like you say, reading that input values and all will be taken care by the framework. So it provides components for that. So the flow also, again, we are configuring it in the XML file externally. So this login action looks very simple and straightforward. Yeah. So is it clear for you people? Anyone got any doubts? Is it clear? Okay. So I'll stop it here today. Okay. And when is our next class? You know that, right? It is on Sunday evening again at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Okay. Yes. Sunday evening, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Okay. Thank you all. Bye bye.